Hi everyone, thanks for coming to join us on our 1,000 Little MS Things. And I'm Claire Jens. I'll talk to you today, and my friend Claudia's here again today talking to us. And we have another friend who'd like to introduce herself to right here, Cass.
Hey everyone.
Explain, Cass, your story is what?
So I have relapse remitting MS. I was diagnosed nearly 3 years ago, so just on my 30th birthday. However, I had a big journey leading up to that, so I think that I had MS for about 5 years prior to that. And going through my life in that 5 years, it was really difficult because I couldn't find anyone to really help me. So long story short, it started when I first fell pregnant. So in 2017, I started falling. So I'd lose feeling on my left side of my leg, and I'd fall. And I go see the doctor and they're like, oh, just, the pressure, the weight that you're putting on, it's what the cause is. But then it started getting really severe. And so my doctor referred me to a neurologist. And I went to the neurologist. My husband, we couldn't get parking, so my husband dropped me off. And I went in and I saw the doctor and he'd done a nerve test and I told him my symptoms. And he sat me down and, like our other friend on 2 podcasts ago, you need to see a psychologist. You're sick in the head. Those were his exact words. And I just, maybe a bit hormonal, I was pregnant. I kind of just broke down and I was like, I know I'm not right. I know there's something not right. I had tingling in my feet, burning in my feet, all these things that like no one could help me with. So I got induced quite early with my son because they were worried of frequent falls, so dangerous. And I left it. 2 months later, I was pregnant again. So my boys are 11 months apart. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Clearly not planned, but no regrets. And then I started having the same symptoms again. Falling. One day I fell and I actually tore my meniscus in my knee. But the doctors were the same. Oh, it's pregnancy, you haven't had time to recover. I was like, okay then. So I left it. I was living in Sydney then. I moved to the Gold Coast. We had my second son, and then he would have been about 3 months old. And I was sitting on the couch and my eyes started going really blurry to the point where I couldn't see. So I have a 1-year-old, so about 13-month-old, and a 2-3-month baby with me. And I had to use Siri to call my husband because I couldn't actually see. And I was like, Siri, call Ben.
Thank God for Siri.
I called Ben and I'm like, I can't see, there's something not right. He was working about 45 minutes away. He's like, I'm going to call the ambulance, but I'm on my way home. And I was like, all the gates are locked. They won't be able to get in. So I'm panicking, but I'm panicking that I have a baby on the lounge and things like that. So he raced home. He actually got to me quicker than what an ambulance did within, 40 minutes. And I went to and I opted to go to the private hospital because it's like, this is not right. Like something needs to be done. And later on, I probably should have went to the public hospital. Maybe would have had a better result. So I went to the private hospital and the private hospital was like, oh, you just got a migraine. I was like, I don't have a headache. I can't see. So they've given me some medication and over a couple of hours, my vision's come back. They're like, here's a referral, go see another neurologist. So I had an MRI done, I saw a neurologist and I went to this second neurologist and he said, oh yeah, you've got some flickers on your brain. I said, oh yeah, what's that meant to mean? Oh, this is just normal. People just have flickers on their brains. And I was like, but, I've lost my vision. I've been falling. I have numbness, burning. My feet are always on fire. Like it could be the middle of winter and I have to sleep with no blankets on my feet because they're physically feel like they're on fire. So I leave, months go by, probably a year goes by and I'm just dealing with it. I start getting tension headaches for that last 10 days. Can't get rid of them. And I go to my new GP and she's like, please go see my neurologist. And I kept putting it off because I'm like, I've been to 2 neurologists. They're telling me there's nothing wrong. And it's not cheap either.
No, it costs money.
Every time you go to a neurologist, it's $300-400 to tell them that there's nothing wrong with you. Yeah. So I called up and they got me in, and this neurologist was actually quite good. He was like, I want to run some bloods, like some autoimmune bloods first, and I want you to have another MRI through this certain company. So I've done that, and then bloods come back saying you've got high autoimmune issues. And he goes, but we're going to wait 6 months so we can do another MRI to compare. So we waited, and this is then another 6 months goes on. I've had another MRI, and he calls me back and he said, yeah, like there's big changes within 6 months. So everything is progressing quite quick. Yeah. And I'm like, so what does this mean? He's like, well, we have to do a spinal tap. And, you know, I was like, I know a spinal tap's quite invasive. My son was 2 weeks old and had 2 done. And I was like, oh, my God, like, what does this mean? Then you're going through your head, you're like, what's wrong with me? Yeah. Then MS was never a thing for me. Like, I never really knew what MS was. Honestly, the only way I knew what MS was that I watched Neighbours growing up, and Susan on Neighbours had MS, and she trembled and she dropped things and couldn't pour. So that's what I thought MS was. I didn't know what the further issues would be. And so I had this spinal tap and come back, and he said, oh, you have asymptomatic MS. And I was like, all right, so, but I have symptoms. Yes. So I have a lot of symptoms, not no symptoms. And he's like, oh, I want to put you on this steroid. You have private health care. I said, oh, basic private health care. He's like, all right, we'll get you in for this steroid. And then the day before I was meant to go in, they called me. He's like, oh, it's going to be $14,000 to have your methopred steroid. I said,
for steroids, because they're $20,000.
I was like, yeah, but
that's crazy.
We live in Australia.
Yeah, no, huge thing.
How does this work? Oh, it comes under neurology and you're not covered for neurology, even though it's in the hospital.
Your PBS, surely.
But you have to pay for your bed and everything for the week.
I didn't know that.
And I was like, that's fine. We live in Australia. Call Gold Coast Uni Hospital and transfer me there. I'm not paying the money.
Good for you.
I was like, we live in Australia. Like, why should I have to pay? It's not about me if I have the money or not. It was about, that's what I'm entitled to. So they actually didn't know what to do. And then about 3 weeks later, I get a call saying, can you come in for an appointment tomorrow? It was Monday or a Tuesday with the neurology team. I said, sure. And I got there and they gave me a wristband. They're like, oh, we're admitting you. I said,
you didn't tell me.
What? I go, I've got no clothes. My car's parked in the car park. Yeah. My kids are at daycare. So at this stage, my boys are like 2 and 3 years old. I'm like,
you can't do this.
You can't do this. They're like, well, we've got no other choice. I said, how long is my bed going to take? They're like, oh, we're not sure. I said, that's right, I'll be back. Just tell them I've gone to the bathroom. I don't know what you want me to say, but I've got to go organise some stuff. Yeah. So I just left the hospital, went and packed a bag. I'm calling my husband going, all right, I left all the frozen meals still in the fridge. There's enough school uniforms. There's enough this, like stressing. Yeah. And come back, and then they started me on the methopred that day the next day for 4 days straight. Yes. So luckily, our daycare was so good and things like that. And then I get put under Dr. Simon Broadley, so who you're under. Yeah.
That's great. Good.
And they told me, you don't have asymptomatic MS, you have relapse-remitting MS, and here you go. These are your treatment options.
Oh, wow.
So this has got hit on me in such a short time, which I knew I had MS, but I didn't know how severe it was.
Okay.
And, a million tests were done in that week and things like that. So it was quite overwhelming. And then that was my journey, my start of my journey to having MS. So diagnosed MS. So it took about 4 years to 5 years, and then I was diagnosed. So I've been diagnosed for 3 years now. So that's my story leading up to
it's quite
a hectic story.
Yeah, MS.
Story, but everyone's story is unique, not everyone, but a lot of people's stories are unique, quite difficult to get diagnosed.
And a lot of similarities.
A lot of similarities. People don't believe you and all those things, of course, but when it happens, when it's actually finally diagnosed, it's massive. And then finally they throw everything at you there.
That's right.
Drugs, medications.
Yeah.
Medications. So what drugs might you be on now, do you think?
So I'm on Tysabri now.
Good, yeah.
So I actually have an appointment this afternoon.
Oh, wow, okay.
So I'll drive back to the hospital today and have now I was on an infusion.
Yes.
Tysabri infusion, but I have quite a lot of how how do you say it, like side effects from it.
Okay.
So like I'd take antihistamine for 3 days leading up.
Okay.
So I'd be halfway through my infusion and I'd be like, I've got the instant flu.
Oh.
So like runny nose, coughing, watery eyes, like instant sneezing, like just hit me.
Yeah.
And I had one really bad time. I skipped 1 or 2 months. We went to Europe and I come back and I started to cough, but I was like looking at the machine like, I've got 14 minutes to go. Like I'll just get through it.
on.
Just get through it to a point where I couldn't breathe.
Oh, God.
So then I was like on adrenaline, antihistamine, like on steroids, like everything was given to me. And they're like, never do that to us again. Like if you're not feeling well, tell us. But I just thought I'll just power through. I've got to go pick the kids up from school.
I've got things to do, Mum. Let me get done.
Yes, it was like I had to then like be really weary of like how I was feeling through my treatments. And it was hard because for me, some people walk out fine. Within an hour, I was like I was hit by a bus.
Wow.
I was so tired. I was so exhausted. It drained me, sucked the life out of me to the point where like I'd go home, Ben would pick the kids up and do dinner and I wouldn't wake up till the next morning. And my kids would be like, what's wrong with Mum?
She's
Like,
tired.
They just don't understand. But because of my side effects now, they put me on the subcut. So
Oh, really?
it's an injection, 2 injections. They're quite painful, but it's not fully covered under PBS. So it's only $32.
Okay.
So what people don't really understand is that Tysabri is about a $3,000 drug.
Yes.
So really, like some people, like for example, New Zealand, they're not covered for Tysabri. So some people would actually have to work to survive.
Yeah.
So in Australia, we're quite lucky that we don't pay for it. So when they're like, oh, you have to pay $32 for the subcut, I was like, that's no problem.
Can I explain what subcut is? I know what it is.
So subcut is, it's not through an infusion. They've broken it down into injections. So it's quite instant. So the girls at Gold Coast Uni in the infusion unit know me, like they call me a frequent flyer because I'm in every month. So, and before I'd be there for a couple hours doing an infusion, taking tests, things like that. Whereas now I go in and this subcut is, like I said, compressed into an injection or 2 injections. And I get in, they do my blood pressure, things like that, give me an injection and say, see you later. So I'm literally there for 5-10 minutes now.
That's good.
Works better with your lifestyle.
It does, especially because I work, so I can do it after work. And things like that, but it still doesn't get rid of the side effects. Like a couple hours later, I'll start to feel unwell, like things like that. But they gave me a choice of Ocrevus.
Yeah. So you chose to do subcut instead.
So
Why not Ocrevus? I'm curious.
what they explained to me is with Ocrevus, you can really get a low immune system and have a low immunity. I have young kids. I work in a school.
Yeah. Okay.
So for me, at that point, I didn't feel like Ocrevus was a right decision for me.
Yeah. Wise.
In that I just don't want to be in a bubble. Whereas like, I guess if I didn't have kids and I didn't work in the school, it would definitely be an option.
Yeah.
But for me to have a low immune system and you're in those environments, I don't think.
Got to go with your
You're
gut.
like a target.
Yeah.
I think so.
And, you know, if we get sick, as you would know,
yes, it's not good.
it's like we've been hit by a bus.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get over it. It's really hard to recover. Like if I'm sick, like with a flu or say it was COVID, we live off antivirals so that it doesn't get so severe that we don't end up in hospital because it can cause relapse because it's like shooting at our immune system. So for me to get sick,
It's not worth it.
it's not worth it.
No.
So that's why I opt to be at the hospital once a month.
Okay.
But it works and the girls there are lovely. I can't thank them enough for what they do. And, you know, it's a bit sad because you go in there and you see other people that are young or old and, you know, getting treatments done and you're like, wow, this is what some people's life really is. Like,
Exactly. It's very grounding. You have
Yeah.
to see how people, some lives are pretty rough.
and you know what?
Very rough.
I'll cop the MS
Yeah.
and my sickness every day of the week so that my kids, like I'd choose it for me over my kids. Like, so I'll stay strong and I'll cop it
Yeah.
and I'll deal
You
with
live
it
for them.
forever and ever.
Yeah.
And I hope that, you know, they never have to experience that
I
ever.
agree. That's nice.
Something I wanted to ask as well, how did you navigate being a new mum and getting your diagnosis, and how did you navigate that whole experience? It sounds like it would have been literally impossible.
Yeah, it's hard. Like I said, I moved to the Gold Coast, so I have no family here. I didn't have any friends. So it was just me, my husband and my 2 young children. Don't get me wrong, I've made some great friends along the way, but when you're a stay-at-home mum, well, I had babies. When you're a mum, you don't get out of the house. You don't go to places to meet people. So it was really difficult because I was unwell. I'd have good days. I'd have some really bad days. But I just got to power on because I've got 2 babies here that I have to look after. And I didn't know if it was, I'm a new mum. Is that why I'm tired? Is it my MS? Why are these things happening to my body?
It's so strange.
Yeah,
such a
it was
battle.
really, and my husband, he was great. He's always been great. He'll help me. He does as much as he can, but he has to work. We still have a normal life, as in we still have to pay a mortgage. We still have bills. We still have all these additional things that I pay for my MS, vitamins, and I go for vitamin infusions to try boost me because I'm so
Knackered all the time.
exhausted all the time.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So he does as much as he can, don't get me wrong, but there's so much he can do as well. He's working 12-hour days some days. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then I have an expectation that I still want to have, dinner on the table and the house clean, but some days you just physically can't get up. It's been a hard couple of years. Yeah. Now that my kids are in school, it has kind of eased off, but then I've gone back to work because, like I said, as much as it's hard for me to go to work, it's hard for me to get up in the mornings. That's probably my hardest part of the day. I could sleep 12 hours and I get up and I still feel wrecked.
Yeah.
I went through stages where I can't even roll out of bed. I'm dragging myself out of bed, but like I said, I've got to feed my kids. I've got to keep them alive. I've got to do all these things. So, yeah, it's hard.
People often say to you, I'm sure they say to me, how are you so strong? You're so strong doing those things. And I say, everyone's strong. You have no choice. You have to be strong because they can't sit in the corner and cry. Who feeds kids then? Who feeds kids? Who doesn't clean the house? Get things done. You have to just power on and be a strong person. It's just life.
And then by 8 o'clock at night, you're dead.
Knackered.
You can't go on because you've just used every bit of energy that you absolutely have on getting through that day. Some days I'm like, I just can't leave the house.
Yeah, I do this.
Sorry, kids. If they're at home, I'm like, I just can't. I just need to and I don't even know where the hours go because I'm so exhausted. It's hard work. And I'm sure that anyone that has MS, especially relapse or progressive MS, would know what that feeling is, but no one else would understand because everyone's tired, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But this is a different
tired.
I
get across people say to me things like, I'm tired all the time too. No, you're not. It's a different tired. They look at you like you're mad. I'm not mad. It's a different level of tired. You can still function. We can't.
Yeah.
When we're really tired, we're really tired. We're dead tired.
Get to a point where you can't find your words.
Yeah, you can't talk.
Can't talk. Yeah. You can't go do things and if depending on the situation, if you I get really anxious and I've suffered with anxiety for quite some time prior to my MS, from probably when I was about 22 years old. I would tremble.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So my hands will shake, I'm shaking a bit now probably because I'm a bit anxious and nervous as I am.
Such a good job we wouldn't have known.
Yeah. And I will tremble and you can't then pour a drink. You can't go do these things. So and that's when I'm grateful that I have my husband because he will help me do anything. So yeah, it's been a really long journey and difficult with children. And that I was saying earlier to you guys, that was my decision not to have any more children.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what my life was going to become. I didn't know what the treatment was going to do and if I had to get off the treatment. And I really thought of the future as in, what if I'm in a wheelchair in 10 years' time?
Yeah.
This is not fair on my kids. I want to be a present parent.
Well said. Yeah, I agree.
Not a sit back parent. So I was I'm going to give the most I have to my 2 kids rather than maybe spread it out between 3 or 4 at this stage of my life. And that was the fit for me. Not saying that it was maybe the right or wrong decision and people may not agree, but for me, that was the right decision to make.
And even like you're saying, what if I'm in a wheelchair in 10 years? That's something that no mother or anyone should have to even think about.
Yeah.
So it's incredible. So much strength.
Yeah,
even
I
in
was
that,
active growing up. I played rugby league and rugby union my whole entire life. So I gave that up. I gave sports up. I gave all that up to look after myself. And my kids play rugby league now. And I want to be that mum out there cheering them on the sideline or helping them train or teaching them how to kick a goal and do all these things. I don't want to be in a wheelchair, but we don't have a choice. We don't get to decide what's going to happen in our future.
No,
So
taken away, that one. It's gone.
it is. It's gone. And like there's hope. Don't get me wrong. There's hope that there's more treatments and a cure and things like that. But I've got to live my life as if there's not going to be, because that's what keeps me going. I think if I stop, that's when I would get a lot worse. Like I think it would get harder for me. So I just have to be mentally just strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You truly are.
Yeah.
Truly.
You're a warrior.
I try.
You get my tattoo with the Mermaid's warrior.
I try, but
yeah.
it's hard some days, and some days like I would just go home and want to cry, and and like as much as people say they understand, no one will, unless you're suffering with it.
Yeah.
No one will truly understand. So there's so many people you can talk to, and it's so nice to be here with someone else that
Gets it.
And like I'm quite young. I'm not, I'm 30. I'm nearly 33. Like when I try not to publicise that I've got MS, because then you get questioned. You don't look sick. Oh my God, you don't look like you have MS. And then they're like, oh, and the way that people judge you then.
They do.
Even I apply for a job and it says, do you have a disability?
Oh, I hate that one.
And I put no.
Good.
Because do you know what? I'm not being rude, but you're telling me then they're not going to look at your application and say, she has a disability, let's put her at the bottom of the list. Doesn't matter how good I am at what I do or whatnot. You're
Back of the pile.
back of the pile.
Yeah, you are.
And you're judged just off that.
That's insane.
It's so sad because there's so many other people out there that would look. Let's put it this way: if I didn't have to work, I wouldn't work. It would be a lot easier on my life. I wouldn't have to stress to get out of bed and get a job done, and memory things and all this kind of stress. It's an added stress to my life.
Yeah, it is.
But like I said, we're only human, and everyone's got
Things to get done.
things to get done.
Yeah.
And if my husband had it his way, I wouldn't work either. He would want me to preserve my energy and enjoy it and have the best life and
Be a
relax.
best mother.
Yeah.
Too, yeah.
And be a present mother, but the world doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. No.
So
And tell us about your job, how you navigate at work and...
So I have a job which is school hours. I probably couldn't work longer than 6 hours in a day because I'm drained. As you know, heat, temperature, cold affects us really badly. So I'm lucky that I have a room that I work in that is air-conned or heated. And it's a desk job.
Okay.
So it preserves a lot of energy.
A lot in the mind.
Yeah, it is. It's
exhausting.
hard. But this is just temporary. So I was a juvenile detention officer before I had MS.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's quite physical.
Yeah.
And
Stressful too.
And stressful. I had to give that up because
Okay.
my life and my health
Couldn't
cope with that.
No.
And God forbid something happened to me while I was in that environment.
Did you like that job?
I love that job because I love helping kids. And I feel like even if you can help one in 100, you've helped that one.
Yeah. You made a mark. It's good.
And everyone knows I would help anyone before I'd help myself. I'd give the shirt off my back. I'd give my last cent to someone to help someone.
Can definitely
And
feel that.
That's what probably makes me get through life. Because there are people, it doesn't matter how sick I am, there's people that are worse off than me.
Yeah, there are definitely than us. Yeah.
And so, maybe if I'm on my deathbed, I might think otherwise. But while I can still be me, that's me. So I work in a school and I love working with kids. I'm actually at uni becoming a teacher
Good for you, girl.
because how do I put it? Like, I can't have a job where I will do relief teaching.
Perfect.
I can't have after my career ended, I was like, I don't have a career. Not that I cared to have a career, I cared to have an income.
Yes.
To support my kids and do what I can for our family. And I'm like, what do I do? And what do I do where people understand if I have a day off work for my treatment, or if I have a relapse, I may be in hospital or have to have days off. Like you can't hold a job, and no one wants to take someone on like that. So I've decided to go to uni and become a teacher and do relief teaching so that if I don't feel like working this whole week or I'm sick, I don't have to.
That's a good idea.
And I can still be a present mum. I can take whatever days off to be at my kids' athletics carnivals, things like that, but mainly for my MS, and that I can still go to work when I feel good.
Good days. Yeah.
I could have 3 weeks of bad days. How do you take 3 weeks off work?
A job, yeah. It's hard.
You know, you can't hold a job down. So at least I know I just block those days out until I feel better.
It'll happen, yeah.
So it's hard, and I regret some days doing it. Every second day when I'm doing assessments and things like that, I'm like, why did I choose to do this?
Today, yeah.
I've been doing it for a year and a half, and I've got about a year and a half to 2 years to go, and I'm like,
Hard work.
can't see the end.
You'll get there.
You got this.
But it's all for
Higher purpose.
a purpose of what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
And if I end up in a wheelchair, can I still go to work? I can still be a teacher.
Yeah, you can.
I can still help. I can still educate. But there's not a lot of jobs where you can pick and choose when you work. So that was mainly the factor of me becoming a teacher, so that I can have a career that helps my family, you know. So, and hopefully along the way I can educate MS, and, you know, the people I meet when they do find out I have MS, they can understand what it actually is, because no one understands. It's invisible.
I know.
Like I said earlier, oh, you look so good. You don't look sick.
I know.
I feel like saying, you haven't seen me on a bad day.
Exactly. It's so true.
You haven't seen me on a depressed day, because all these things counteract with MS.
And what would you both say to people who, you know, those people that say, oh, you don't look sick, or people who don't know about MS? Like, what would you say for, you know, to educate those that say the wrong thing? What would you say?
My dad and I spoke this a while back, and I said that no one sees I'm sick, no one knows I'm sick, it's really annoying. And he said to me, Claire, would you rather be black and blue and look sick? Would you prefer that? Or no, even though you're sick then? Yeah. Would you look fine but actually be sick silently? It's hard to know what looks better. Okay, rather be obviously sick with like one leg, one arm, whichever, but you're internally sick for like 24/7, but no one knows. And I don't know what the answer to that is. I don't know what's better. I can't tell how to be one or the other. I don't know.
How do you show someone that? How do you explain it? Like,
yeah, no, it's hard.
I feel like saying, maybe for my husband, and you live with me, and you understand what's actually going on.
Yeah.
But no one, and now like that Take My Hand movies come out, and I say to people, can you watch the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can, like, it's an easier way of comprehending it and it being explained of what it is. And that's only a glimpse.
Yeah. Tiny.
Like, it's nothing.
No.
But it's still educational.
Yeah. Good.
For people to understand, like, wow, she doesn't show this.
She doesn't look sick at all, no.
Like, there was a time, I'll give you a quick little story. I was at a wedding. I was talking to my friend like this, and I thought I'd been shot in the neck.
Oh.
And I literally went like that, and I was looking from the direction it felt like it come from.
Yeah.
And my friend actually saw me jump, like, at this split second.
Yeah.
And I was like, did someone throw something? Or, like, has something been shot? And she's like, what's wrong? What's happening? And that is something that MS does, like the pain, like, that you get through your hands, through your body, your feet, your legs.
It's spasmodic.
It feels like someone has literally got a BB gun
and shot you.
And these are things that we can't control, and it will just happen
no
like
one knows
that.
No one knows.
No one, and like, she didn't know. She's like, what's happened? And I was like, nothing. Like, how do you explain in that time? Oh, I've got MS, and this is.
I feel like I've just been shot.
Sorry, I've been shot in the neck, but I really haven't. But that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And it literally rocked me for about an hour, the pain.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know, like, I could be in the shopping centre and it would happen in my leg. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what do I do?
Yeah.
How do I get back to my car? Now, things like that it can just happen in a split second. Like, and it's happened where I'm like, all right, I'm just going to sit here until the pain goes away, and I'll sit there for maybe 45 minutes until I can shuffle back to my car.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, because it's unpredictable. Yeah. That's what it is. It's actually unpredictable.
That's the best word for it, unpredictable disease. It's just impossible. That's how it is.
And I think it's that overall of, you know, you never know what someone is going through.
That's so true.
And it's when it's not written on their forehead, like it's just holding the kindness and understanding.
What do they say? You can't judge a book by its cover, and that's literally us.
It's our story. It's our story. That's cool actually. I like that. It's how we are. Just you can't tell what's going on. I can't tell everyone's story. You can't tell, but ours is probably a bit more dramatic. Yeah. Oh, that's maybe, but yeah, that's kind of that. Yeah. So your husband deals with it really well, obviously.
Yep.
What do you know about MS before you told him about it? Was he aware of the disease at all before that?
No, like I don't think any of my family or my husband literally knew really what MS entailed.
Okay.
So like I come home from the hospital after my week of steroids with all these things, and there was a book and saying, get your family to read this.
Oh, okay.
Like what, like how do you explain that? And Ben, like I said, has been really supportive, and just he's like knows he didn't come to any appointments because we didn't know exactly what it was.
Okay.
And so he was never there. So it's been relayed to him in human form. Okay. Because, you know, when you go to a doctor or a specialist, it is relayed a lot different. And then you have to ask a million questions. Like, so what does this mean? What do you mean by neuropathic? What do you mean by relapse? And all these questions that we ask. So I've given him the info as best as I could. But like, even when I was in hospital quite a lot, people would ask, like, what's going on? And I remember then I started putting a post on my Facebook here and there, like, oh, this is an update. I mean, like, I've been diagnosed with relapse remitting MS. Yeah. I'm having a steroid. Just so people are aware. Like, because like I said, I never really knew what it was. I'd seen it on TV. Yeah. Okay. Like, I'd never been educated about it.
Thank you, neighbours.
Yeah, thank you, neighbours. Like, thank you, Susan, or neighbours.
I'm going to point something out right now. The neighbours episode when Susan was the MS part of that story, Lena, who's been a lead before, was actually the person advising neighbours about it.
Really?
Yeah. So she's actually the person that doing
what can't she do?
Yeah, no, she was the person they talked
to.
I know. So she explained to Susan how to be a sick MS person.
Wow.
Which is funny. Just connections.
Yeah. So then I done, like I said, just letting my family and friends know. And I had a family member say to me, why are you writing that? Like, do you want attention?
No.
Oh, that's awful. That's so awful.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Said, no. Like,
ignorance.
I just want people to be aware of what my circumstances are. Like, he's like, they're like, oh, do you want people to feel sorry for you?
Oh,
and I was like,
in a way.
I was like, I don't want no one to feel sorry for me because there's worse people off, but I want people to understand that
what you're going through.
I don't have a normal life anymore.
No, your whole life has changed.
And I probably didn't have a normal life for 4 years before that, but I dealt with it with no medication, no treatment, no help.
Yeah.
And now, like, I'm going to have these resources to help me. And so that was quite, like, condescending and upsetting.
Very.
Because I was like, wow, like, why aren't you taking this serious?
I was going to ask you, actually, how did your family deal with the diagnosis? So that person obviously not well.
No. So, like, I come from a Maltese background and we don't talk about feelings.
Oh, wow.
We don't talk about emotions. We're being brought up really, like, tough. Okay. Like, as in, like, we work. Like, that's how it's just always been.
Definitely tough. You got that.
So when I got diagnosed, like, I feel like I wasn't taken seriously because you can't actually see it.
Okay.
And then mainly as well, like, I don't live anywhere near my family because they all live, you know, a 10, 12-hour drive away.
Yeah.
So they don't actually get to see
What goes on?
Yeah. And how it affects my life and things like that. So I rely a lot on like after school cares sometimes, and so that I can get to my treatments. And my husband does as much as he can, like I said, but he's a contractor. He takes a day off or takes a week off. We don't make any money. So it's really hard. So we've got to pick and choose how we go about our life. So when you don't have much support, and don't get me wrong, I have some great friends up on the Gold Coast now that help me out, that will pick my kids up. But I would do the same for them. Like, I don't let my MS stop me. Like I said, I try to help everyone when I can. But like, if I really need it, they're there, which is great. But I feel like still no one, probably even my family, like they still aren't educated about MS.
You go see the movie. Go and see the movie.
And I've said that you have to watch this to understand what some of it is.
There's only some. The thing is, I think the movie actually whitewashed a lot of the horrible bits of MS. It was a very clean and tidy Hollywood film of MS because it wasn't really the real problems all the problems we really have, the big down and dirty things. The down and dirty problems we have. You don't see that really. So the MS has been kind of very homogenized or very clean and tidy MS.
Yeah, it's not
real.
But it still provides and shows some form of it.
True.
Which, like you said, it's only the top layer.
Yes.
But can you imagine if that's the top layer, what's actually underneath?
It, exactly right. Well said, yes.
You know, like things like, I don't know, I have tinnitus and I only had that for the last probably 5 years.
Can you explain what that is?
So I say tinnitus, I think it's tinnitus, but it's ringing in your ears 24/7. So like I'm hearing the cicadas right now, and if anyone knows what a cicada sound is, that's how my head is 24/7. So I struggle to fall asleep at night because
you hear the cicadas all
I
the
hear
time.
that noise in my head all the time. Things like positional vertigo.
Oh, that's a bad cracker.
I had a spell of it probably about, I reckon 6 to 8 months ago, and I thought I was going to die. Like it got severe and severe over the days to a point where I couldn't even lift my head up, and I was in hospital. And Ben dropped me off at the hospital, and he was home with the kids because I don't want the kids always to be in that environment.
Yeah.
And so I got to a point, I was in the hospital, and then couldn't even keep my head up. I was vomiting that bad from the positional vertigo. Like I thought I was going to die. And I called Ben. I'm like, you need to get here now. I was crying in tears. So he dropped the kids off at my sister-in-law's house and come to the hospital. And I don't think he's ever seen me like that before. Like I felt like I was on my deathbed. And so they gave me all this medication and sent me home because there's not really much that they can do. And then I went to my physio. So I have a great physio that helps me with strengthening and conditioning on my hands and my legs for my MS. Good. Yeah. Thanks, Alex. I really appreciate everything you do. And he's like, I can do some positional vertigo things, but I'm not trained in that. Okay. So he called around and finally found one for me for the next day. So I couldn't drive. I couldn't do anything. I literally was on like a boat. Yeah. I was vomiting. And she does this test and she puts these goggles on and it records your eyes.
Wow.
Right? And so they move your head around. So what positional vertigo is there's these crystals lodged in your ears that have come loose. And until they fall out of your ear canal, your vertigo won't disappear. So she does this test and it records the eyes, and she recorded my eyes and how fast my eyes were moving like this. Shaking. And so I went back for a couple of days straight, so she had to keep doing these head movements to dislodge.
I feel sick watching you because I know what it feels like.
Dislodge these crystals.
Yeah.
And that rocked me for, I'd say 2 months, that one spell of vertigo.
Yeah, it would do.
I was not the same person.
You can't move your head around.
I can't move. I couldn't walk properly. My balance was worse than ever.
Yes.
So I was given a lot of balancing exercises and things like that. And we're doing it with your eyes closed. And when you have vertigo,
forget it.
It's hard.
Can't.
Like little things like that people don't see may not happen every month.
No.
But it happens.
It might. Yeah.
You know,
can.
blood issues.
Oh, blood, I think I forget that.
You know, things like that. Like, you know, I used to pack a baby bag for my kids, and I have pack a spare bag of clothes for me
too. Yes, we all do.
Everywhere I go.
Yeah.
And people may think that's crazy, but like
You need
It's
it.
practical. We have to.
We have to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and these are things that aren't seen
Ever.
ever.
In the movie, there's a little tiny thing about bladder things in the movie, but it's not real. It's a tiny little taste of it, I guess. But that's a big one for MS. Is bladder things and bowel things are pretty bad. So they're kind of they're whitewashed away and it's ugly.
Yeah,
but it's
so
just
people
hidden away.
don't know that those underlayers.
No, they
Just
don't.
the basic things going about your day that are
regular
completely
day
different
things.
to, you know.
Yeah,
It
like
takes away your optimism in life.
100%. Like my kids do nippers, and like I like to go, and I could be out on the beach, and the heat is just so severe for me. I can't be there.
No.
I've got to go sit in the shade, drink some water. You know what I mean? Like it affects. Like if we go somewhere, I have to like be prepared that I may not make the whole day. Look, don't get me wrong. A lot of days I do make that whole day, but we have to be reasonable that we may have to have an hour break and sit down and just to get my grip again and then keep going. Like little things like that. And my kids don't understand that.
They're little.
But they're little. They're not meant to understand.
Yeah.
But adults don't understand that either.
No, exactly.
You know?
I would think that one of the things I remember telling my friends in just various fields that I cancel a lot. In the old days, I used to cancel all the time. But not so much now, but I used to cancel things. And there's our job for not going. So my friends sort of, and then you're so flaky. I'm not freaking flaky. I'm sick. It's a different thing. Being flaky is you're weak. I'm not never weak. I had to cancel. So it made me really cross and people didn't get that. Really angry. But
Yeah, because they don't know how much effort it actually
do things.
is to do things.
Yeah, it's
like
annoying.
to get dressed and then, I don't know, like even like if you can't find something to wear that you're happy with, then you get flustered with yourself and then your anxiety kicks in and
Shoes are an
Yeah,
issue. Shoes
like-
you can't wear.
all these kind of things, and then you're like,
all little.
oh my God, it's too hot to put my makeup on. Like,
sweating.
I just can't do this. And like, it becomes a thing,
Yeah.
It is.
you know, and people probably don't realize that it does become a thing for us. And it might be minor to them, but it's not minor to us.
No.
Yeah.
Changes everything.
Like, it's hard work.
Yeah.
Like, everything's extra hard.
Yeah, everything's hard. John always said to me, Claire, for leaving the house with you, it's so hard. So I said, not about way, Claire, just you make everything so much harder. Oh, sorry, Kim, that, sorry. When I leave the house, I panic about everything. And so it's a process to leave the house without forgetting everything or taking the wrong things or doing the wrong things. I just have to be very organised when I leave the house. But everything's done, but it's a process each time.
This conversation here, like for people who don't have MS or do, like you can hear the relatability and also the education because I just, hope this gets out to anyone, you know, it's so important what you're saying and it just like, again,
hidden away
I say this
too.
every episode, but I mean it, you
Thank
guys
God,
are
it's
so
okay.
strong. Holy shit.
It's just, it's not.
Yeah, education on MS is probably my number one like thing. I'd love everyone to know what MS is. Like everyone knows what certain cancers are.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? And MS isn't as present as what cancer is, but it still affects so many of us. And like from such young, like I feel like they used to say, oh, women aged 40 to 50, like that's the bracket that women get diagnosed. And now I feel like I'm hearing so much more of women getting diagnosed, you know, in their late 20s and early 30s. Like this is the start of our life.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and
We're
then
starting out in our career.
that's right. And like we're being shot down by these things. So like,
Go for the knees. God.
yeah, like awareness for that and like employees and employers and, you know, what people, I would love people to understand and give people a go.
Yeah.
Because
People that go.
we don't get like a disability pension. We don't get any of these things. We still have to survive. We still have to work. We still have to pay our mortgage.
Just harder.
It's just
Much harder.
extra harder for us. And it makes me think like my husband's 15 years older than me. So I'm like, we're going to be paying a mortgage off for the next 25 years. I've got to work for 25 years so that we can, and can I work? Will I be able to work? What's going to happen? Like, do I leave that all on my husband and our kids if I get to a point where I'm really sick? Like, that's what scares me is what, if there is no cure or more treatments, what the future holds. If I get to a point where I can't have a career, how do you survive that?
I love what you just said there is like, give us a go. I think
Yeah.
from even just talking to you and talking to Claire always, like there may be areas in work that can be a struggle, but look how strong you are, strength that most regular people wouldn't have. That is something as an employer would want in their team.
100%.
Hopefully, like you said, the education can get out there. So,
Yeah.
there can be more resources and more opportunities for people who have MS or any other disabilities.
Yeah, thank you. I agree.
And that's right. It's not just MS.
Yes.
And
It's all sorts of diseases.
it's for any disease that anyone has.
Yeah.
Everyone deserves a fair go, whether or not you're sick or you're not, or it's a hidden disease. Like, we just want to be normal, but we can't.
And we were at one time
were
before
once
the
upon
old
a
days we
time.
were normal.
And we just want to fit in.
Yeah.
And that's probably why we don't speak about our disease a lot, because then you get 1,000,001 questions and you feel like everyone's
And they're
then
ugly.
talking about you, or not in a bad way, but they're like intrigued. And I always like, with me, it's like, oh my God, did you hear about Cass?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's hard.
she's like, she's a superwoman. Like, how does she deal with that? And it's nice because it's not like they're bad mouthing it. It's like they're really praising like how we survive.
You're impressive.
And like, it's like, she's got no help. She still works. She does uni. She raises her kids. She's at every sporting event for her kids. But she's got MS on top of that. Like, how the hell does she do it?
I know, exactly.
And I feel like saying, like, it's just adrenaline.
yeah, it's life.
So
and
your
also
willpower.
It is.
And there's choice. What else do you do? Sit in the corner and cry? No, not doing that. Ever.
Because if you do that,
You give up. And
You
MS,
give up.
And MS wins.
and
Bugger that. Not happening.
MS patients people that have MS have a higher, like, depression rate.
Really?
And don't get me wrong, I'll just tell you now, like, I get
been there.
depressed.
Yeah.
I get anxious. And if we then start to give up on that, it starts to take over us. And I don't want my kids. I keep going back to my kids. I want to be strong for my kids so that they understand that, there's life to live.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how sick you
And
are.
life is hard. It'll always
Yep.
be hard. Everyone's hard. Just don't give up. I like
That's
that thought. It's very strong.
Yeah.
And I know from Claire's experience that we've spoken about this before, but you used to hide as well.
Oh, for a long time I didn't tell anyone.
And now you've really
And now
started to.
I have when my husband died and I got much worse, I then became more open and more clear about things, and more. So I got sicker because I couldn't hide it. I couldn't hide it much then because I was in a wheelchair and in a walking frame and things. But as my got worse, I became more forthright about it and talk about it more openly. And now I think because now I'm in the countryside, living in my best life here, touch wood, in the beautiful fresh air, with really nice people around me. I think my MS is touch wood again is. I hate saying improving. It's stabilised, and I feel stronger for it. I think that's because I've just haven't given up to it. I've kind of let it in. I've kind of said, well, this is it. This is how my life is now. I'm not going to let it ruin my life anymore. I'm just going to move on and just be like, rather than MS owning me, I now own MS. It's like, I'm going to cry.
Beautiful, Claire, because you really have.
Yeah, it's a strong thought. Sorry, you talk. Sorry.
From, me and Claire have been friends for almost 6 years now. And when we first met, it was, everyone quietly knew that she was sick, but she didn't like to talk about it. And she was almost embarrassed by it.
Yeah, it was.
And watching your transformation, I'm going to swear, you fucking own it.
You can spread me too.
And you seriously, how the shift that has shown in who you are.
Oh, good. You
And
tell.
how much it has affected this world, sitting
Good.
here now.
Thank you.
And I think it's really important to share.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be ashamed.
No, that's the thing. I think I was saying before in another episode that MS brought to me a lot of shame, which is just insane because it wasn't like you didn't get it on purpose. It just happened. But people it's being shamed of it. It's ridiculous. And now I kind of feel more empowered by it. Then, well, now I've kind of found my.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, you question why me,
Yeah, definitely.
and that's probably what it is.
Sorry.
It's hard to say, but you're like, why are these bad things
Yeah,
happening
well, I get it.
to me? Like, I'm a good person.
Yes.
What have I done to deserve this? And for me, and even for Claire, like, we've gone through traumas in our life, not just being diagnosed with MS, like losing, like you lost your husband. I lost my fiance at such a young age, and I'm just like, what have we done to deserve this? And we are great people.
Yes,
and I know I'm a good person.
Yeah.
But then this is just added on. It's like, how much more can
We bear.
And that's why I feel like now you're open about your MS is that so people understand like a smidgen of what we're going through. And people are educated to know that MS is a big thing. It's on the food chain to other diseases. It's so down here.
It is,
But like you look at funding for MS Australia and things like that is so minimal compared to other diseases. And I'm not taking away from these other diseases, but MS affects people's lives every day. It takes people's lives. Like it destroys families as well because our families have to deal with this as well. So the awareness and now you putting it out there, I think it's probably a weight off your shoulders.
Yeah, I think it is.
Like that you don't have to feel like you have to hide it.
Yeah, definitely.
And showing your strength.
Yeah,
because
100%.
It shows what you can achieve. If you put your mind to things, you can do things, which is good.
Yeah. And I don't want to give up going on holidays and doing these things. Yeah, it might be hard, and you might see people might see my photos of like us happy in the good times.
Yes.
But that's just a photo of maybe an hour in a day.
It's easy to smile and pose.
It's easy. And like everyone, it's, I could be home at 5 o'clock that day on the bed and I don't get up to the next day. Or I can't walk and I will have to go home and leave my husband and my kids to enjoy their time. Like, that's what I mean. Like, a picture only tells what you can see.
Yeah.
It doesn't show everything. So people that probably judge us and say, oh, they've got MS, but they've still got a good life.
Exactly.
That's probably the killer.
It does bother me. I've got my family a lot, in my life a lot. The people think that she's okay, she's fine, she's got some money, she's good, and that sounds very trite and very silly. But it's like life's just hard, and MS makes it doubly hard. But life is hard for everyone. I mean, life is hard. Everyone hard life. I know that.
Still, you guys are here to talk about MS. It's fucking hard. You're amazing.
Trying to make it better. Trying to make it better for everyone.
So we just wanted to say it is okay to feel your emotion and to cry and let it out. Never to say sorry because you chin and bear it like
you have to.
Crazy. You know what I mean? I think it's so important to share these moments and these glimpses of crying out of sadness and happiness for how far you've come and anger.
And anger too, and like be pissed off.
Yeah.
I mean, took away. I'm 54, and I've had this for 25 years already, and I feel like it's taken away, not taking away my life, it's taken away a lot of joy in my life, and it's been it's changed a lot of my opportunity going forward and everything. But I'm now living here in this house, in this area now, feeling so happy here that I feel I've kind of, we said in another podcast that MS occasionally can actually change things for good, because I think that, I was saying before that my job before, so I had a very hard job and I didn't have much of a life, just worked. And so in a way it stopped me on my tracks, like I said, and just made me a better person, I believe, which is ironic but true. So I smelled the roses and I sort of felt our life could be, and I think that maybe MS was a good thing. Maybe, touch wood. I think it was actually a good thing for me. But maybe.
There's a lot of power in saying something like that.
Thank you,
No, I agree. We can get sad. We do get sad.
We do get sad.
Quite a lot. And I think a lot of that stems from people not understanding.
Yes.
That's what probably gets me sad the most, because I'm like, they just don't understand what I'm going through. And they say they do, or they say they don't care, or whatever it is. And that breaks my heart, because I'm like, if it was cancer, for example,
very true,
people would probably feel sorry for me and give a shit.
It's so true.
That's right.
It's true.
But you know what? You could get over cancer. I'm not saying that you people do, but it's curable in a lot of cases.
Some don't, but some do.
So that's right.
Yeah.
But for us,
we don't get that.
We don't get a choice of it being curable, unless it's God forbid. Like I pray
God
that
there's going to be a cure.
There's a cure.
Yeah, one day.
But MS has been along for so long, we still don't have a cure.
No, it's kind of crazy.
And like I'm praying, like I really do hope, and I think that there will be one day.
One day there will be.
But I can't tell you when.
No.
And things like that. So that's probably why it makes me sad and so upset and then angry, and I'm like, oh my God, I could be an even better person if I wasn't sick.
Yeah.
How much more could I do in this world?
Yeah.
And how much more effort could I make? if I wasn't like this. So that's where it gets me. Like I said, I could probably be playing sports and doing all these things that I used to do and I love, but I can't do these things. But at the same time, like when I meet people like you guys that understand and we can make a difference in the world and to MS, that's what's rewarding. And I go to the hospital monthly and I meet all the doctors there, well, mainly these nurses and things like that. And I'm like, if it wasn't for you guys, like, how would we survive as well? And then I meet other MS people and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm looking at you and I'm going, you don't look sick, but that's what people think about me.
Yes, exactly right.
But I understand the underlying issues, but off that split second and visually, like, that's what people see me as.
Yeah. I think she's looking good. What's all the fuss about? She's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, kills me. That one kills me.
Yeah. So that's where, like, angry, happy, sad,
everything wants.
all these emotions come, good, bad.
It's no wrong reaction.
No. And for anyone that has MS, like, reach out.
Yeah.
You know? Share.
Join the family.
Yep. And I really hope that we can, like I said, educate Australia, the world, whoever, about it. Send me a message, ask me.
Yeah,
I will
agree.
tell you.
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to educate. But people are scared to ask sometimes. They can judge and talk behind your back,
then
but they won't ask.
Yes, it's so true.
And maybe, Cass, if there's any form of social media you wanted to tagline here, so if anyone wants to reach out to you.
So I'm sure we'll probably tag it when the podcast comes out. The Cass, I think it's the Cass Moon.
Cool name.
Yeah, so I don't have much followers or friends or whatnot, but I'm there if anyone wants to talk or wants to know about anything. Like I said, like, I'm there to reach out to anyone. It's nice to have people to talk to that understand. And so
To share.
I
think it's such a, not a bizarre disease, so it's such a unique disease, I guess. It's nice to have a family or a group of people who understand it.
Community.
It's such a bizarre community. Because people, it's such a bizarre, different disease. That having people understand you is so key to dealing with it, I believe. On your own, it's too hard.
Thank you so much, ladies. And for all of us, anyone that knows someone with MS or doesn't have it, for me personally, like, I really appreciate you getting the word out and the education, and even in my circle, how I can educate people. And it's just, it's really important. And I really just take my hat off to both of you. You're incredibly strong women. And thank you for your time and allowing me to sit here and listen.